So, what if I told you that every company's most valuable asset isn't something you can find on a balance sheet? You can't lock it up in a vault. Today, we're diving into knowledge management to figure out how to unlock this hidden treasure. Our guide on this journey is Layla Vidal. She's a chief knowledge officer, and her whole philosophy is, well, it's simple, but it's incredibly powerful. She says everything we do is based on knowledge. Every single thing. What we know about our customers, our competitors, our own processes, that's the bedrock. Okay, let's really dig into this question. I asked it a minute ago, but really think about it. What gives a company its real edge? The brand? Maybe. The products? The tech? Layla argues it's something way more fundamental, and honestly, something we usually ignore. And there it is, the answer. A company's greatest asset is all the expertise, the hard-won lessons, the practical know-how that's just trapped. It's trapped inside people's heads or scattered across a dozen different systems that don't talk to each other. It's siloed, it's not being used, and that's just a massive, massive missed opportunity. And that brings us to the mission. See, Layla's entire job is to systematically break down those silos and get knowledge flowing across her whole multinational company. But why? Why is this so critical? What's the actual cost of not sharing all this internal wisdom? Well, the stakes get pretty clear when you look at the two paths a company can take. On one side, if you don't share knowledge, you have teams constantly reinventing the wheel, just wasting time, money, and energy building something that another team already perfected. But on the flip side, when you do share, you lift everybody up. You raise the standards for the entire organization, because now everyone gets to benefit from that shared expertise. Okay, so we get the why. It's all about being more efficient and just better. But how do you actually make that happen? Let's get into the strategy and see how this all builds up to this idea of a learning organization. This right here is the ultimate goal, a learning organization. It's not some static thing. It's more like a living system. It's a place that actively helps its own people learn and then uses all that new knowledge to constantly adapt, to innovate, and to transform itself. It's a really powerful, forward-thinking way to operate. And in the real world, this big, grand strategy really boils down to two very practical things. First, you gotta make information accessible to everyone. Usually, that means a central hub, like a company intranet. And second, you have to be relentless about developing your employees through nonstop training. Let's dig into that intranet idea for a sec. We're talking about way more than just a corporate homepage, you know? Imagine this huge, searchable database where any employee can just look up how a past project was organized, what it cost, or even discover cool new ideas that were proposed but never went anywhere. It's like giving everyone a key to the company's collective brain. And this just perfectly shows that second pillar in action, development. At Layla's company, employees spend a full 10% of their time on training courses. I mean, think about that for a second. That is a huge commitment. It's a loud and clear signal that learning isn't just a perk. It's a core part of the job. And to manage all this, they've actually created their own company university. What I think is so smart is their hybrid approach. They use their own senior managers as trainers to pass down that practical, been there, done that knowledge, but they also bring in outside experts to inject fresh perspectives and new ideas. Now, this all sounds fantastic, right? But making it a reality is a constant battle. See, building a learning organization isn't just about technology. It's a cultural challenge. You're fighting against some pretty deeply ingrained human behaviors. And here it is. This is the classic argument for managers who fight this kind of change. This whole idea that information needs to be tightly controlled and only given out when someone needs to know. This is the core belief that knowledge management has to break down. And this really gets to the heart of the human conflict here. It's a total clash between two different mindsets. You've got the hoarder mindset, which says, hogging knowledge makes me more powerful, it makes me indispensable. But then you have the sharer mindset, which understands that sharing knowledge builds the power and the strength of the entire organization. But, okay, let's say you win the cultural fight. Everyone's on board, everyone's ready to share. You immediately slam into a second huge challenge. You can't just open the floodgates and hope for the best. Sometimes too much information can be just as paralyzing as too little. So the real puzzle isn't just about sharing information, it's about managing it so people can actually use it.
How do you organize all this stuff? How do you make sure it's presented in a way that's actually helpful? And maybe most importantly, how do you keep your employees from just being totally overwhelmed and giving up?
So let's tie all of this together now. We've talked about the strategy and the struggles, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to a core idea about what really makes a modern company valuable. And this brings us right back to Layla Vidal's powerful metaphor. Knowledge isn't just data on a server, it's intellectual capital. And what do you do with capital? It's an asset you invest, you develop, and you use it to create even more value. Once you start thinking about knowledge that way, it changes everything about how you run a business.
So I'll leave you with this final question. Just take a look around your own workplace. Is knowledge treated like a personal possession, something to be hoarded for individual power? Or is it treated like shared capital, something to be invested in and grown for the good of everyone? The answer to that question? Well, it reveals everything.